The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of Philly Fame Legends. I'm your host, James Scorza, with you, and with me, as always, is a group of companions on a very important, big topic here today. Joey Marks joined me once again, like he always does. Joey, what's going on, my brother?
Man, this one is going to pull at my heartstrings, but I'm looking forward to
Goosebumps.
talking about it. Yep.
Yeah, and this guy is a legendary voice of the Philadelphia Phillies for all these years, gone way too soon. But the greatest thing about it was this guy was probably one of the voices of our summers. And even though when it's summertime hits around, it still actually makes you feel a little bit emotional that he's still not around to talk about this great Phillies team in the last handful of years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we kind of have to start a little bit about some of his background. And this is a guy whose voice, the minute you'd hear it, you know who it is.
Yep.
Like before
Outta here.
before you even get to the taglines, before you even get to the out of here or struck him out, like before you get to all of that, you hear that baritone voice, you hear that iconic voice.
Hi, everybody from the Astrodome in Houston. Welcome to Phillies baseball. Harry Callis along with Rich Ashburn.
Harry Callis served in the Army. He was stationed in Hawaii. He actually started his commentary career in the Army, commentating for the Army baseball game in Hawaii. Must be nice to have done that. I can just say that right now.
Really
As
cool.
a little bit of envy. Little bit of envy there. But in 1960, he started his commentary career with the Army in Hawaii. And then he moved to the Houston Astros and did commentary there. And, you know, for what it was worth in Houston, much like football, in Texas, baseball does matter,
Yeah.
a lot. So having a guy like Harry be able to have that job professionally, work his way up the minors and get to that job professionally is just saying a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you think about Harry Callis' career, obviously. I mean, this is something that I've known for a long, long time. I remember when I was a kid, I would pick my dad's brain or probably pick anybody's brain about, like, I mean, what makes Harry Callis so iconic is that he just sits there and he just has that great voice. I mean, once you hear the voice, you can't get away from it. It's like Merrill Reese when he says it's good,
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I mean, when you hear Harry Kellis say, swinging a long drive, that ball is out of here.
Could it be? Could it be? It is out of here! Number 400 for Jim Thome.
And
Yeah.
I mean,
So, like with those taglines,
yeah,
like you hear so many people,
Yeah.
even now, that will say it or try and replicate it. And
yeah,
it's so
I'm trying.
yeah, and it's so amazing because yeah, okay, some people can get close.
Sure.
Like they can. But in 1971, Harry Callis changed the landscape of Philadelphia sports.
He did.
He joined the Philadelphia Phillies commentary group and basically joined when it was still kind of in its mire. Like the Phillies were not good in 1971, but he came here and he got to know as the team started to rebuild around Michael Schmidt and Steve Carlton and guys like Pete Rose and Larry Boa and John Vukovic and stuff like that. Like guys like Harry were basically one of the guys in the clubhouse. And Michael Jack Schmidt has said that plenty of times. It wasn't that Harry was trying to fit in because he wanted to be popular. He wanted to fit in so he could better deliver commentary during the game. Put a personal touch on it. from not just the personal touch of himself, but a personal touch about what he knows about the player,
Mm-hmm.
about the individual. And I always felt like that is where the out of here long drive, like that's where I think all of that exuberance came from, was from his knowledge of each individual player.
It's funny, Joe, because like every time when I watch Phillies games nowadays, I have like a Harry Kellis in my head, like to think about like a strike three called, and he'll be like, "Struck him out," and it's like I still in my head, I'm still progressing like Harry Kellis in my head, thinking about like how iconic he was. But no, man, I mean the one thing I loved about Harry when I was a kid, I mean there was two announcers that I grew up watching, and I still to this day I'm glad I have to say it's still great to hear Merrill Reese call Eagles games, even though I mean obviously it's a shame Harry is not here anymore, but those two iconic broadcasters kind of made me feel like where I wanted to be as a broadcaster is because I heard so many great announcers in my lifetime. I mean, Harry Callis and I mean, even the commentary he had with Richie Ashburn was simply iconic. And even like the early days of Larry Anderson back when he retired and he was a part of the Phillies broadcast with Harry actually. And the same thing with Chris Wheeler too. I mean, it was just like the one thing I loved about it too was that the iconic voice, it'll never go away. And even like that we always talked about here is that he was the voice of our summers, and he is still missed to this day.
Yeah, and I mean, Harry did so many things that were smooth. If I had to describe Harry and the way he delivered, it was you couldn't rattle the guy.
No.
Like he was very smooth. He didn't get out of his, he didn't get out of his groove by like what you would say to him or trying to make him laugh or anything. He was locked in,
Yeah.
much like the players. So in 1980,
Mm-hmm.
he got to call not on national television because, as we're all familiar, when the playoffs get to a certain level, they go away from the regional television. They
Right.
go on to national television. In 1980, Harry was unable to call the game in the World Series for the Phillies on a national broadcast, but he was able to call it on a radio broadcast.
Mm.
And his call of the final out, I think, meant a lot to him as much as it did the players.
Mm-hmm.
And, this was the first World Series in Phillies history.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, for Harry to be a part of that history, no matter what it was, whether it was radio or television, he just wanted to be a part of it. But
Mm-hmm.
in 2008,
Yep.
the Phillies got back to the World Series, and Harry got the privilege of being able to call the final out of the 2008 World Series championship for the Philadelphia Phillies.
Fans on their feet. Rally towels are being waved. Brad Lidge stretches. The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Once again, there's been footage about it, footage around that shows the booth, the minute that Harry calls the last out by Brad Lidge, and Whitey's cheering and jumping up and down, and Harry's just
Yeah.
sit laser focused, like just I'm going to
Man.
celebrate when this is done. And
Yeah.
there's other big spectrums of Harry and his personality, his big personality that we'll get to in a couple minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to reflect, James. Tell me what you think about calling two World Series in which your team wins.
Man. I mean, you know, the thing that makes it even more amazing to think about is that seeing two World Series in his lifetime, and also one calling a World Series in 2008, and sadly not calling it in 1980. But the thing that I took out of it the most was, even to this day, when I hear like all this time, like I hear call after call after call, and I'm thinking like, does it reflect on what Harry Kalas would bring to like the call, like an iconic call? You think about like obviously Michael Jack Schmidt's home run was iconic that he did with 500th home run.
The 3-0 pitch. Swing a long drive. There it is. Number 500.
The World Series call and Bradledge striking out Eric Hinsky and giving the World Series championship again for the Phillies in 2008. There's a lot of great calls that Harry Kalas that he made, but those historical ones that he did back in 2008 were like, I mean, even 2007 to begin that actual championship tenure of the Phillies getting back to a World Series. I mean, that 2007 call in the NL when the Phillies captured the NL East. I was like saying to myself, I'm glad Harry Kalas is able to still be able to do this. And unfortunately, I mean, the 2008 World Series happened. I'm thinking like we're set for life with Harry Kalas, and then tragically, like sadly, on that April date, it was in our, and hearing that news would be trampled in my mind. It will be trampled in my mind forever as long as we live.
You know, and we'll get to that in a minute. But one of the things that I want to also bring up. So when all of you go to the Phillies game, no matter how old or young you are, you will go to the Phillies game, and after a victory by your Fighting Phils, there will be a video that will play on the big, and it will be Harry Kalas in the clubhouse singing "High Hopes." But he had high hopes. He had high hopes. He had high apples flying in the sky. And the interesting thing is that idea was not Harry's idea. That was Mike Schmidt's idea.
Wow.
Because Mike Schmidt and Harry were best friends. And Mike Schmidt and Harry would go to these piano bars. And Harry would, every once in a while, get up and sing. And Mike said, I want you to come into the clubhouse and sing for all of us.
Wow.
And Harry's like, no one wants to hear me sing. And Mike said, listen, I'm the team leader, or I'm going to make sure you're okay. And just come in, let everybody hear the amazing voice you have. Share the gift. You have to share the gift. And the film, the crew that was in there filming it wasn't necessarily in there to film Harry. They were there because the game was over. They were going to do player interviews. So there's like a camera crew in there to film the interviews. So Harry kind of starts to kind of jump into it. And you could tell that every single Phillies player was in it.
Wow.
Was just engaged in it. And so you got to understand like the love and the appreciation for not just a commentator, but for the man, for the person that Harry was widely appreciated. And, you know, his greatness was personified, and it just echoed more through his commentary. But like the person he was already great. And, you know, that High Hopes song says it all.
Yeah, it does. And I remember there was a time, I think it was in 1993, when the Phillies captured their first NL East championship in quite a while. And I think it was either Mitch Williams asked him or John Kruk asked him, and he started to sing the song "High Hopes" after they won the NL East, and all the players were starting to sing with them. I said to myself, now that to me, that's when Philadelphia. I think that's when the Phillies fans started to love Harry Kalas even more. Of how great of a, I mean, and you know the thing that makes it even more iconic for Harry Kalas too. He was such a great guy. I mean, you could not ask for a more of a humble human being, I was really fortunate enough to listen to him to the day he passed away. But the one thing I always like to say is that even like he always tell the Phillies fans and he also tell Phillies sports fans that he loved them. Like it was like a real committed relationship that you have with somebody. And every time he said, "I even the World Series championship or even like his final peace offering before he passed away," he was like, and it makes you realize that when he passed away, he was something. He was actually more than special. He was simply iconic too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I I just remember like growing up to that voice.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, who barely ever missed a Phillies game,
Mm-hmm.
hearing Harry's voice, even if I was running in and out of the house as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
made me feel like, wait, what's going on? Like
Yeah.
when I hear struck him out or out of here, I'm like, what? Like it would immediately grab your attention.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask you a question about Harry.
Sure.
So out of all the things that he is known for saying, what's one of the things, what's one of them that's your favorite?
Oh man, that's a good question. That's a very good question, Joe. I mean, there's like so many of them, you know. I mean, the struck him out is a good one. The way he says Mickey Morandini, like something like that. But um, I think it's his home run call. I think it's probably his home run calls because those ones are always simply iconic about what he did. And the most important thing about it too is that what Harry Kalas was so special was that when there was a home run call and also when there was a big time was a really big home run call, he made it simply iconic. Even like Mike Schmidt's home run, or there was a game sealing home run by Kim Batiste back in the day. But the greatest call I always hear him say is either, I mean, it's probably either two of them. It's probably for offense, it's out of here, obviously. And when he said swing and a miss, struck him out, like either it was a 93 or Brad Lidge in the World Series.
Brad Lidge does it again and stays perfect for the 2008 season. 48 for 48.
I mean, that's going to be the most important thing. I think winning, I mean, calling those two iconic calls, I mean, were amazing. But if I had to pick one, I have to say out of here for sure.
Mine has to be the Michael Jack Schmidt call, the 500 home run. Because my dad on that day was like, "You're not going anywhere. Like, you're not going out. You're not going anywhere."
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know what I was watching. I really didn't. I was too young to know, to really understand it, to grip the enormity of it. Like it's in '87, I was either 6 or 7 years old.
Right.
So like I didn't know what the hell I was watching.
Sure.
My dad just said, "You sit and you watch." And when Schmidt hit that home run and Harry's call, first I can imagine that it was emotional for Harry to make that call because of the closeness that him and Michael Jack Schmidt had. But then to do it and then feel elated off of what he had just witnessed and experienced. That call of swing it a long drive, it's out of here, 500 Michael Jack Schmidt, like emphasis in everything he said. And look, James, me and you were going to endeavor into commentary with a project that's coming in the near future.
Yeah.
And me and you, I think I don't want to speak for you, but I think I speak for the both of us when I say we try to live and walk within the same headspace as Harry Kalas and
For sure.
try to do him proud. Now, in the 2000, at the end of the 2008 World Series Championship, that call, as you brought up 6 months later in April, we got the
Yeah.
sad news right before think it was right before opening day, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
it was actually the first. I think they were. I don't know if they were like they were in Washington. I think they were like seeing.
yeah,
I think they were visiting the White House that day.
yeah. So,
I can't remember though, but I don't know where I
so,
was when it happened though. But continue.
so when that news came down, I remember where I was as well,
Hmm.
and I was in my living room. My dad had put the television on, and both me and my dad stood, not sat, stood in the living room
Hmm.
listening to the announcers, and just me and my dad just started to cry because
Yeah.
we were just like, okay, what? Like we just heard him. Like we were about to celebrate that World Series. We just heard him. And like I always kind of look at it like this. God gave us Harry to give us joy.
Hmm.
God gave us Harry to give us an escape in the summer.
Hmm.
God let Harry stick around to call that 2008 World Series.
Hmm.
That means a lot
It
because
does.
if he dies a year earlier, that World Series commentary sounds very different. And
Absolutely.
for me, I'm just privileged to have listened to his commentary through my lifetime.
Yeah. No question. I think the other thing too. I mean, speaking of that day, I remember where I was when that happened. I think it was I think it was Easter. I think it might have been Easter Sunday when I heard his last call, and the Phillies took the lead. And it was a Matt Stairs home run. I'm thinking like there's no way, there's no way that this. I mean, I mean, I was thinking like saying to myself, like the Phillies are set to win another World Series. I mean, this guy's set for life. Even like there was a couple times in that 2007 when they won the the National League East, and I said to myself the year after they won the World Series, I said like that this guy. That, I mean, this guy's set for life. I mean, he could really do this for as long as we can, as probably hopefully, but it still shocks to me. It still shocks me to think that when that happened, it was just like I mean, I wouldn't say that ended the Phillies season that day, but I'd say right now I was watching a lot of the commentary about that. And I would never forget where I think it was a Michael Barkan was coming like into the intro, and he said we're talking about the sounds of summer, the voice of our lives, burgers sizzling on a grill, heading down to the Jersey Shore, and yes, he was the voice of our summers. And I said to myself, perfectly well said. And if there was a lot of people feeling like that, there was a lot of people that day. I mean, we saw a lot of depressed. I mean, there was a lot of depressed Phillies fans that day, and I can bet me and you and me both, Joe, we were really depressed about how that happened that day. And I mean, the one thing that was missing was that the Phillies could have won it for Harry that year, but his voice will live on forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that run to the World Series in that year, I think in some ways it was in tribute to Harry.
Hmm.
Like that was the thing because Harry, I gotta go back to this. Harry didn't just mean something to the fans.
Hmm.
He didn't just mean something for the listening audience. He
Hmm.
meant something to the players.
Yeah.
He was a staple in this city, and that's why the day that he passed, like there was a perspective loom over the city for the foreseeable week
Yeah.
because it felt like the whole city was mourning.
Hmm.
Now, I remember that the funeral,
Yeah.
and I remember that the Phillies said, we'll take a disqualification. If the
Hmm.
Major League Baseball isn't going to give us the time off, we'll disqualify ourselves for that game.
Hmm.
We're going to Harry's funeral.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like they were threatening to walk out on the game. And
Hmm.
Major League's like, no, completely understand. There's certain iconic, And so I want to kind of we've zoomed into what Harry meant to Philly,
Hmm.
but let me zoom out to what Harry meant to commentators all over the country.
Yeah.
You have Vince Scully,
Yep.
you have Marv Alberts,
Yep.
you have so many iconic voices.
Hmm.
Harry Callis will go down in that pantheon of what iconic voices are and what they should always sound like, and in the professional manner they should be delivered in.
Yeah.
I mean, I could sit here and tell you, and I think, if I were teaching a course on how to be a good commentator in sports play-by-play,
Hmm.
it would be listen to Harry Callis and try your best to keep up with how he calls the game,
Sure.
because that is what professionalism looks like.
Yeah. And you know the thing about it too is that yeah, I mean there's a lot of commentators out there that kind of like are like cookie cutter like now in this day and age, and you think about they all sound the same. But back then, like you brought it up, like the Marv Alberts and even like a Bob Costas, and even the list goes on and on about that too. Like the day and age of Harry Callis is the one of the reasons why there's a lot of people in broadcasting that want to go into play-by-play or even more stuff or even in the broadcasting field is that the first thing they come to mind is, okay, so what made you want to become a commentator? And they'll be like, well, I always loved Harry Callis. I always loved Merrill Reese. I mean, we have a legendary, back in a long, long time, we have like legendary play-by-play announcers and commentators. I mean, you think about the Gene Harts of the Flyers, even Harry with the Phillies, Merrill with the Eagles, Mark Zumoff with the Sixers. I mean, there's a lot of legendary broadcasters. If you had to put a Mount Rushmore of like Phillies top play-by-play announcers or Phillies sports play-by-play announcers, I mean, I would say Harry Kellis and Merrill Reese are probably 1 and 1A.
Yes, I would 100% agree with that. And to kind of even put this in kind of a nice little nutshell,
Mm-hmm.
Harry's legacy lives on. His son is a commentator as well.
Yeah.
Um, and his other son, ironically enough, is a singer.
Yeah.
So where Harry had both the skills of being a commentator and a singer,
Yep.
he has raised two boys that have followed in his father's footsteps on different pathways.
Mm-hmm.
And so to the Callis family and to all the people that um had the privilege of listening to Harry Callis, I want to first thank the Callis family for all the love and support that they have given to the Phillies. And in a selfish way, I kind of want Harry's son to come commentate for the Phillies.
Wow.
In a selfish way, I want that, I want that kind of trade to kind of come full circle, because I believe I'm not. You could correct me if I'm wrong. I
Mm-hmm.
believe his son is the commentator for the Houston Astros,
Yep.
which is ironic because that's where Harry started.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Harry's son follows in Harry's footsteps and goes from the Houston Astros to the Philadelphia Phillies. Who
Wow.
knows? We'll see throughout what time brings. But
Yeah.
we come to the part of our show where it's one word. If you, James, had to describe what Harry Callis meant to you in one word, what would that word be?
Hmm. I mean, these are this always points to always a good one because I'm always thinking of like a one word. I would say, for me, I would say, man, iconic. I mean, just I sit there. I even go back in even the days of when Harry Kellis was still doing commentary with the Phillies, and I say to myself like, man, he was just so iconic. He was so chill. He was so skillful. I mean, there was nothing forced about it. He was not screaming or anything like that. He just had a skill, man. And the one thing you have to do in play-by-play, and also you have to do in commentary, sure, you have your fair share of obstacles, your ups and downs, but overall, once you know it was the Phillies were doing something great, he'll tell you about it. And once the Phillies were playing bad, he'll let you know about it too. So homerism isn't okay. I mean, there's a lot of people that say homerism is a little far-fetched, but the one thing is for sure though about with Harry Kellis was he told you how you feel about this Phillies team, and he'll understand that he loved you like he was one of your sons.
My one word would be this: voice.
Yes.
Because that guy, I can listen to videos, on YouTube with Harry and just get lost, get washed away in his voice, because he didn't just bring entertainment of the game. He brought the passion of the game.
Mm-hmm.
As a person who doesn't have any sight anymore,
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate what a person can tell me about a situation, a game, an event, whatever, with their voice, with their words. And Harry was so descriptive and so poignant with how he said things. And for a guy who had a baritone voice and would light up a cigar and had a little growl and all this, but could lull you to sleep with a good baseball game.
Yeah.
In not in a bad way, not in a boring way, but just in a way where you could feel relaxed. You could have the lousiest day at work, and you could sit down and you could listen to Harry do a play-by-play of the Phillies, and you could just forget your problems.
Yeah. Definitely. For sure.
So that's going to do it for our show today. I hope everyone enjoyed it. But before we get out of here, I wanted to give everybody a quick reminder. Please like and subscribe to the channel. And please stay tuned for our next episode of Philly Fame Legends, where we are going to review more iconic and legendary Philly famed Philly athletes and landmarks. That'll be coming down the road. But
Nice.
for Joe Marks, James Scorza, we are Philly Fame Legends. And as the great Harry Callis would say, we are out of here.
High hopes, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.